Today's episode is brought to you by Mazars.
SoundCartel.
We know how important branding is for business, but what is branding exactly? And how do you develop a brand that makes sense and stands out amongst your competitors? From SoundCartel, I'm Nicole Goodman, and this is Business Essentials Daily. It's crucial that your target customer can not only find you, but is motivated to buy from you. A proponent of this theory is Richard Turner. Richard's an entrepreneur and founder of 4 companies across 4 different sectors, including Zen Energy, which was recognised as Australia's 4th fastest growing company in 2012 by BRW magazine. Richard's also the author of The Essential Entrepreneur: What It Takes to Start, Scale and Sell a Successful Business. Inside the book, he outlines what makes an effective brand. First, Richard explains to Chris Ashmore why good branding is so important.
Branding is fundamentally what connects your business to your customers. It needs to do a few things. It needs to essentially communicate what your business does in a clever way, often with a dual meaning that's impactful, meaningful, relatable and memorable. So it's got to have those 4 elements, or at least have a tagline that does. People need to be careful with made up and misspelt words. You see that a lot these days. People always ask me, but Google got away with it. But Google's got $1 billion advertising budget to educate people. So startups, early stage companies don't have that. So you need to be careful with misspelt words and made up words, as people need to be able to find you. And if people can't find you, they can't do business with you.
Now, what would you say makes an effective and standout brand?
Essentially, we're trying to take our company's mission, our vision, and our values, which should emotionally connect to our customer. Being the whole why we exist, why we get out of bed, which reflects the passion we have for the business. And we need to align that with our customers' values. So all of this needs to be wrapped up and represented in your brand. Don't underestimate the importance of a strong brand. So my last company, Zen Energy, for example, Zen was an acronym in the early days for zero energy. So it was all about balancing generation and demand and talking about energy independence. Our current leadership, which Professor Ross Garnaut was a part of, he loves to say Zen is zero emissions now, which is fantastic. But it also captures those beautiful Eastern connotations of wisdom, enlightenment, and a new way of life. Everything that we could possibly want from a renewable energy brand. So brand positioning in a crowded marketplace is a critical part of the process. So do you picture your brand as an aspirational brand at a premium price? And if so, how's that going to be justified? Will your brand be an affordable mid-market brand that appeals to the everyday person in the street? Or will it be a necessary everyday item? Will it be in a regular purchase, or will it be a budget item aiming for sales volume at a low price point and a low margin? So there's lots of elements there you need to consider when you're determining your position in the market. So who are your customers and how are you going to engage with them? So you've got to get yourself into a creative thinking state of mind. And for me, usually it's a good bottle of red, or with some friends, or a long hot shower, get the brain working, but get yourself in that creative state of mind. Start thinking about where your brand sits in the market and how's that going to relate to your customers.
You write in your book that marketing has 2 important aspects, the first of which is researching your market. Can you explain about that?
Absolutely. So 2 parts of marketing: the research side of marketing, and then there's the creative side of marketing, which is how you apply that. So on the research side, understanding who your customer is critical. So what do they look like and how do they behave? What is their age, their gender, their demographic? How are you going to reach them? And what media do they read or look at, and when? And then how do you trigger an emotive response in them with your marketing material to motivate them to research your business, or better still, engage with your sales channels and make an inquiry? It's the emotional part of the brain. People need to understand that. It's the emotional part of the brain that aligns people's personal values with your brand and is the most powerful tool to trigger a buying response.
There's always a next step for your business. There's always help at every stage. As you grow your business, we're here to support you every step of the way. Move forward with Mazars. Visit mazars.com.au. That's mazars.com.au.
Well, the second important aspect to marketing is testing out your customer. How do you suggest business owners do this?
Yep, getting a test group of people together is the great place to start. So in marketing, we call this a focus group. So focus groups are a great place to start testing. It could be family and friends in the first instance, and they're people who want to support you and quite often are nice to you as well. So you may not get the honest answer from family and friends, but a good place to start. Get feedback on your product, ask open-ended questions, get their response on things that you may not have even thought about with your product, because they'll tell you, can it do this? Can it do that? Can it be this color? Can it, all sorts of different things. And then once you've got that sort of feedback loop going, then you might expand that out to more of who you determine to be your customers, your actual target customers. Go through another cycle of asking open-ended questions, getting feedback, going through the feedback loop, improving your product before you take it to market. So test your product features and benefits and price points and the responsiveness to your potential marketing campaign particularly, and the messaging, making sure you understand that emotive trigger that's in people's minds.
Well, if we turn to the marketing campaign, what do you think goes into designing an effective marketing campaign?
People underestimate the power of good design. If you don't look credible in the marketplace, if you have poor design, you just look like a startup company that can't afford a graphic designer. So looking credible in the marketplace is really important, so you're taken credibly. So good graphic design is critical. If you look at a startup that can't afford a graphic designer, you'll never be taken seriously in the market.
So even if you have no money, try to get some to at least get the brand looking good.
Well, whether it's graphic designers, whether it's solicitors, whether it's accountants, if you find a good quality professional to help you, and some will specialise in the startup sector, knowing that if they find the right companies to help with a lot of potential and they do a good job for them, they do it on a shoestring budget to start with, but they know they're building a customer for the long term. And later on, certainly they'll get payback as these companies grow and can afford to pay the full rates.
Does it make sense to bring PR people into the marketing campaign?
Absolutely. Look, 50% of my marketing budget with my companies, and I've been involved in founding 3 companies that are now billion-dollar companies, and I've seen them grow. PR is a tool that I've used extensively. In fact, I would suggest 50% of my marketing budget has been attributed to PR. So your marketing is generally you talking about your products, whereas PR is other people talking about your products. So well-positioned PR is heard or seen by all your stakeholders, including your suppliers, your bankers, your investors, your potential investors, your customers, and your employees. It's a powerful tool to build a strong market profile. So if you're disrupting an industry, really important to give it a new name, own it, and then have a credible journalist talk about this new sector or industry, and position you as the go-to person for comments for that particular new industry that you're setting up. So an example with Zen Energy, again, my last company. In the early days, this is before there was any solar or battery companies, this is the early 2000s, we decided to call the company Zen Home Energy Systems, not solar, nothing to do with solar. We wanted to coin the term, the market segment called home energy. And the PR we engaged at the time, we said we want to develop this new market called home energy, which we want to own. So we had all these stories written about home energy, and they would refer to me as the market leader, the go-to person for that market. And this term home energy just grew and grew and grew, and we became the leaders of that new market. Very strong position to hold.
That was entrepreneur Richard Turner, author of The Essential Entrepreneur, What It Takes to Start, Scale and Sell a Successful Business, published by Wiley. This episode of Business Essentials Daily is produced by the team at SoundCartel. Thanks for listening. I'm Nicole Goodman. We'll bring you more Be Daily tomorrow. Follow at BE Daily Podcast across social media and head to bedaily.com.au for more from the Business Essentials Daily podcast. SoundCartel. This episode was brought to you by Mazars. To find out more, visit mazars.com.au. That's mazars.com.au.